And I'm going to now go to Greg. Greg, can you hear me?
Sure can. Thanks very much, Mark. And welcome, everyone. Thank you for attending, and a special welcome to Caitlin. Real happy to have you aboard. You bring the average age way down. And tonight, want to welcome John Harnett, who's going to make the first presentation. And John has is the first chairperson of New Generations in our district, and I want to thank him very much for taking that challenge on. And our second presenter tonight will be Alva Hagee from the Kempfel Club, and she is the chairperson for the foundation and has been the architect behind getting us prepared for New Generations. So, without further ado, I'll turn it over to John, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Okay, just for my clarification, do I have the slides now, or does somebody else?
I do, John.
Okay, that's fine, not a problem. I guess before we do any slide changing or things, when I did this before, I kind of felt like I didn't open up very well, but just for a bit of history and information's sake, I've been Rotary for 37 years, and most of that time I've spent in youth-related programs in terms of youth exchange at our club level for probably 10 or 15 years. And also for a few years was involved with pulling off a few, actually delivering 2 Roylas for Newfoundland, and trying to do 5, but the first 2 and the 5th didn't make it because of participation. And for a year or so was the district chair for Rotaract and Interact a number of years ago, that was, and have been involved with the 3 clubs here in St. John's, basically co-sponsor, I guess, the Rotaract Club at Memorial, and each club has a representative, and I'm the representative for our club. So I've quite a bit of exposure to, and I guess experience with the youth programs within Rotary in general, and have always felt my whole life that that's probably where I suppose the future of Rotary is, and not only Rotary but the world, I suppose. So I think it's really, really critical that we look at every club consider very seriously getting involved with the new generation stuff, whether it's Rotaract, Interact, Youth Exchange, RILA, whatever it might be. And I guess I can't impress that upon people too much. But what I want to do is take a few minutes to go through what the programs are about in terms of the youth programs, new generations programs within Rotary. And if we could shift to the first slide. Okay. I alluded to this before. There's 4 areas mainly within new generations. Excuse me, folks. RILA is the Youth Leadership Awards, and we'll get in more detail about each one shortly. Rotaract tends to be the young adult, I say division or club of Rotary. Interact tends to be the younger adult and I guess adolescent age range for service club, and Youth Exchange tends to be, it is the program that will send young people to other parts of the world under the umbrella of Rotary to experience other cultures, to experience living with another culture, to learn from them. It has both long-term and short-term programs, and which we'll talk a bit more in a second. Okay, go ahead. To focus on each one specifically now, participants for RILAs are anywhere between 14 to 30 years old. It really depends on the focus that a club or district have. Most clubs focus on and districts, I think, tend to focus on the 14 to 18-year-old age group, which tends to be junior high or high school. And that way these 14 14 to 18-year-olds would be invited, usually in separate. It's almost like there's a further division within the 14 to 18-year-old group, and you don't often find junior high and high school students together in the same RILA event. Excuse me. They're usually separated because there's a significant difference between someone in junior high and someone in high school. You get a grade 7 or grade 8 or grade 7 versus a grade 12 group, then there's not a lot in common there, and there's, I guess, some risks as well involved with that as well, potentially. The other one that tends to be focused on is the 19 to 30-year-old group, and that tends to be either university, college-based, or I guess it can be a mix of both, but I think you find many of them are university, college based, and you may find some that are community based. It really does depend on the focus of the particular district or club that's pulling the RILA off. And Caitlin, you're at Dell, aren't you? You're muted now. Okay, I think you are. I haven't done this before, so I'll talk to people who can talk back. That's a unique experience. Okay, next slide.
No problem.
Basically,
John,
what RILA is, and pardon the...
John, this is Mark. Sorry, if you have a question or if you want to direct something to one of the people, they can actually respond in chat, or if you want me to, I can open one of their mics. So just let me know.
Okay, yeah, and it was just more of a confirmation, I think. I believe Kate was with the Dell group, and I need to talk with her. Not tonight, but another time. You can see this slide with the double heading on it, which I don't know how that happened, but we won't go there. Basically, what happens in a RILA is it's meant. There's a couple of different focuses for RILAs. It does that. It's basically in the training program to develop character leadership skills, and in the process, the participants tend to learn about Rotary, which is, I guess, in reality, part of the goal that we would have is that people have a better awareness of Rotary. Very often, from my knowledge of it, RILAs will be anywhere from a weekend to, it can be a week long, it can be longer than that, obviously. The agendas, I guess, can vary a bit as well. The one that we did here for a couple of years, we invited students from all over the province and to come down to Bury Heights to a church camp on the Salmon Line from a Tuesday afternoon until a Friday evening, and we basically put them through more of educational programming, more so than the other side of it, which I'll get to. So people were exposed to getting along with people, what is leadership, international development was some of the agenda areas, some smaller amount of challenging yourself, some game playing to show cooperation, things like that. It was mostly indoors, mostly focusing on educating around leadership and the skills in that. The other kind I've not done but seen done is sort of an adventure type camp where the participants are challenge themselves to do things they would not normally do, whether it's crawling through a barrel of mud or climbing up a mountain or that kind of thing, which is far more physical and challenging yourself physically. So it really depends on how the RILA is organized, I guess who organizes it and what the focus is felt it needs to be for that particular group. But again, it should do the developing character and leadership is you very often see on both ends, both types of RILAs, you see that kind of development happening in the participants. Why do we do it? What the objectives are to demonstrate respect and concern for youth, encourage them to take on leadership roles down the road. And I think that one of the things you see coming out of a RILA is that because people tend to do well in things that they may never have thought they would, then you see a lot of personal growth in them, and they become far more effective and willing to take some risks, I suppose, in terms of their own leadership. One of the initial reasons I wanted to do a RILA with our club, and that was St. John's North West, by the way, I didn't say that, was a sense that there's probably a fair number of people out there, young people out there who are in high school age, who may never have gotten very involved in, because of developmental stuff and because of any number of reasons, in any leadership roles when they were in high school or in school in general. But when they go to work, all of a sudden they sort of begin to get this bit of an urge to, some of their leadership skills may surface a little, and maybe the desire to take on some leadership roles may surface. So what I wanted to have done back in those days was to actually be able to connect a leadership training program with what the program would be, with these young people. Difficulty we had, and why 2 years didn't work, was because the age group it's not in university or college, they're in the community, and if they're just out of high school, 16, 18, 19 years old, then they're very hard to find, to track down, to advise them or make them aware of the training program. They're not in one location where you can publicize it, so it's very difficult to find people and to target that group. So we had a real struggle for a couple of years, in spite of our trying, to be able to get access to that group. And of course, the other objectives are kind of there and making some sense. But that was kind of one of the experiences we did have, and why, when we did it eventually, we went to the high school age group, because that was a group that were fairly easy to target and make them aware of it. Next slide, please. Basically, clubs and districts make RILA happen. My understanding from reading all the stuff on RILAs is that most RILAs are district-based. Now, not all of them are, but I think that was maybe the original intention, and maybe what I guess depending on the district that you're in and how easy it is to move around, it may be simpler to do it that way. But really, it's the clubs that make it happen. The clubs get involved in selecting participants, generally fund their attendance. The clubs will be the ones that may introduce the young person to what Rotary is about, by probably inviting a participant who's going on a RILA to a meeting before they go, and giving them some sense of what Rotary does. And usually the clubs are the first contact, and I guess after the event contact that participants have. Very often you may find, I would imagine a lot of clubs invite the participants back to a meeting to talk about what the RILA event did, just to give them that kind of exposure. Next one. And what do we do? What is if we wanted to make this happen in our district or in our province or our region or an area, then basically we would need to get a committee alive, I guess. And there should be some youth leaders involved as well as Rotarians, I guess, as mentors. And they will put together the program, look after promoting it, doing all the things that need to happen to have a RILA occur in a good one. Another one of the areas, so that's kind of the RILA area. Does anybody have any, if it's okay to do this now, anyone have any questions about that so far, about what RILA is, or anything that might be unclear? I guess that's a no. That's fine. Rotaract is basically a service club for young men and women ages 18 to 30. Again, like some of the RILAs with the senior ages, it can be either community-based or university college-based. Most of the ones I've come across, and I think all the ones, the 4 in our district, are all university-based. I don't believe there are any colleges involved, but going by memory, but the university-based. And again, it's partly because you've got the mindset that exist within a university that would be probably attract the kind of people who might want to participate in this kind of activity. Okay, next slide.
Oh, sorry, hold on.
Okay. And basically, Rotaractors can do those things, volunteer locally and internationally. They do build career contacts very often as part of the process. I think I mentioned before, I'm our club's representative for the Rotaract Club at Memorial, and they have speakers in probably every second or third meeting. And I'm sure that the people who go in, there are career things that will happen or have happened as part of that. So it's a natural, it's building a network, which is what people who are looking for, who are on career pathing, are wanting to do, get networks behind them. So that would certainly happen as a natural piece of Rotaract. They would develop leadership skills. I've seen sharing of responsibilities at meetings in terms of chairing, and obviously in a club of 15, 20 people, then there's going to be, with various committees, there's going to be some are going to step up to the plate and do some leadership things as part of it as well. And of course, like most people who are 19 to 99, they like to make friends and have fun. Next one, please. Similar to Rotary, there's kind of, well, similar to 5 areas within Rotaract that it's recommended, I suppose, in terms of what they do and what a club should look after. There's a club service side of it, like we have, community service like Rotary has, international like Rotary has. Professional development would be a bit of a difference because, probably because of the age group. There would be more of a desire for most Rotaractors to learn things in their own development related to their professions or their careers. So there would be probably a bit more emphasis on that within a Rotaract club than there would be within a Rotary club. And of course the finance piece will be an important part of it as well. But you can see that the structure is similar to what Rotary is all about. And I guess the professional development side will probably parallel to some extent the vocational service piece of from Rotary clubs. Next. Interact is very similar to Rotaract in terms of what they do. The difference, the main difference is the age group. They're anywhere from 12 to 18. They tend to be sponsored by individual Rotary clubs. I think you're finding a lot more these days in both Rotaract and Interact because of resources that clubs have. You probably find there's more co-sponsoring as happens at Memorial, so there's a couple of different Rotary clubs involved, and it gives the Interact Club, Rotaract Club, a broader reach into the community as well, which is always helpful. I know that when I go to Rotaract meetings, and it will be similar with Interact, that there's talking about how this particular Rotary Club is helping with this project or has made this donation to this project that the club is doing. So you find more of that. And it also means that where most clubs have limited resources, and they can sharing them among different clubs is a good idea as well. Sometimes an Interact club can be a single gender, boys, girls, or sometimes mixed up. I think most of the time the ones I've seen have been mixed, but I guess it can go both ways. Sometimes, again, speaking to the last one, the last point there, they can be from one school, and it probably depends on a whole bunch of things like the size of the school and the proximity of other schools to it. But I don't know if I'm not aware of many now that are involved from more than one school, but it can come from both. There's no reason why it couldn't happen, or 2 or 3 schools potentially. All right, next one now. Interactors learn, they do leadership skills and integrity, understanding, helpfulness, and respect for others. Well, what's there? Understanding responsibility and what hard work can do, and that it feels good after it's done. And advancing understanding and goodwill. One of the things related to that, and it goes all the way through this, is that the involvement of young people in programming like this is, I think, key to international understanding in a lot of programs, particularly. And I guess I see it more in the youth exchange program, that at the end of a program, you've got so much better an understanding of what the world is about, and it tends to make people more tolerant, make participants, young people, more tolerant of others than they might be otherwise, and that whole broadening of kind of, I guess, what's okay for a young person. And it all relates back to international understanding and goodwill piece of things. Next. Similar to, but a bit different from, the Interact clubs tend to have 4 committees: club, finance, service, and international understanding. Generally speaking, it's expected, I suppose, or suggested, or somewhere in between the two of those, that each club, Rotaract and Interact, will take on both community project and a international project each year, and that's kind of it, I guess, to have them thinking about both areas and not just focus on things local or things international to the exclusion of the other. Next, youth exchange. This is probably the one that we're best known for, and well, it's certainly the one I know best because I've spent so much time in it, but I think a lot of people know about the youth exchange program just because of everything from having students in school from another country who are in an exchange, or friends having gone away in exchange, that kind of thing. But in the there's 2 kinds of programs: the long term, which is a 12-month, 10-month program, and short term. Briefly, to go to the long term one a bit first, the long-term exchange program basically sends a young person to go to a different country, basically of their choosing. I know what we do here. I'm currently sort of stepping out of the district exchange chair, but what I've done is we will say to clubs who are choosing students, find out from them where they would like to go. And if someone, it used to be they chose 3, but with email these days you can usually find out if they just mention 1 in a very short order where they would like to go, and usually it's a matter of an email to somewhere in Japan or in South America or Europe, and within a day you have an answer whether they'd like to exchange with you. And if they come back with a yes, then you've got your exchange set up. So it's a very easy process now compared to what used to be prior to the internet days. You had to take the application and mail it to someone in Japan and say, would you exchange? If they can't, then they send it back again. So it's a long process. But basically the student will spend, it's usually from September to June, July, depending on the summer activities planned in that country. And they participate in Rotary to varying extents, because some areas are different than others in terms of how much they engage a student. Some it's very intense, and others it's very superficial, unfortunately, but it's the way it is. The clubs that are involved in exchange have to be, the districts, I should say, have to be, pardon my phone whistling at me, the clubs have to be, the districts have to be certified, and that basically means that the district and all the clubs in it agree to abide by the Rotary not goals, but policies around youth exchange in terms of safety, in terms of looking after them. And each year, districts get certified to be able to be involved in youth exchange. They're often, I think, there are some districts that aren't certified who would like to be involved, but Rotary tends to, I use the word discourage it, because there isn't a comfort level that the safety is on the radar for the district. So it's kind of I don't think it would stop anybody who wanted to do an exchange with a non-certified district, but I think Rotary would sort of say be very, very careful in doing that, because we don't know about the standards and whether they're going to abide by all the criteria, standards, goals, regulations that RI has adopted for youth exchange. The short-term program is less, it doesn't have the same amount of Rotary involvement with the student. It tends to be, as it says, several days to several weeks long. Very often it's over the summer. Normally in a long-term program exchange, the student who comes over from, maybe a student will come from Switzerland into our club, and we would not normally, and under most circumstances, send a student from here to the Swiss students host club or sponsoring club in Switzerland, because of the potential for some conflict or difficulties and what that might do on the other end of the exchange. You find a lot more in the short-term program that a student will go and exchange with a family exchange, and it comes kind of under the Rotary. Rotary is there, but doesn't have the same amount of involvement in the exchange and what happens during it. It's far more direct family-to-family thing, and they're very often, while student A is in student B's country, student B is in student A's country, so it's that kind of a way. But it comes under the same umbrella of the youth exchange program. Next. Next. Hello. There we go. This is yeah, I'm not quite sure what to say about this. Some of the material I read on New Generations as an avenue talked about a New Generations exchange, and I don't quite know and wasn't able to get a good handle on what it meant. It talks about the stuff on the screen there. I haven't come across any more information on it than that it looks like a mix of, because youth exchange, basically they have to be in the long-term program or short-term. They're not supposed to have reached their 19th birthday by the time they arrive in the country they're going to.
John,
so 18 to 20.
Sorry, John, this is Moderator Mark. I'm just going to give you your 3-minute warning. That's
okay.
Okay.
I can talk really fast. Believe me, I can talk really fast. No, and this is pretty much the last slide anyway. I'm not sure what to say about this, except that I don't know if it's something that RI is planning to do, or if it's simply something that is meant to encompass all the exchange programs that are offered. Okay, we'll do the next one, and I think last one. Or was that the last one?
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, okay, I put that there. There's the RI website has a lot of good information on it, and what I've noticed when I went looking for some stuff to put this together was that there seemed to be a whole lot more video clips and videos of the various programs than there used to be before. So I certainly encourage you to go to the RI site and look for some of this stuff there. These are the links to the documents on the New Generations program, and if you look on the videos link, it'll be stuff there from Youth Exchange, from RADA, from Rotaract, from Interact, and sometimes a couple of videos on each one. So I'd encourage you to go there. I guess just in my last minutes, I would like to, this is not on the slide, but I would like to hear every club have a discussion about doing this. As I mentioned in the beginning, I think that what we do in exchange and with young people is so critical to the work that we do generally. Is so critical to the world understanding thing. People who go through the kind of things that young people go through and that we do in Rotary. You have a very different view of the world just because you've gone through it. And I would certainly really encourage every club in the district to give some serious consideration to doing all of the programs. That's a little unrealistic, obviously, but certainly the Rylas of the world, the Rotaract Interact, or Exchange. I mean, they're critical programs, and young people I always find absolutely blow your mind with how enthusiastic and how much fun they have in doing the work they do, and they get a lot of work done in the meantime. Okay.
Thank you, John.
Questions or okay?
Thank you, John. Mark chiming in. Before we move on to our next presenter, again, if anybody has any questions for John, he's a great resource with respect to new generations in the district. So while you got him online, I encourage anybody who has any questions to type them into the screen or raise your hand, and I'll actually open your mic if you prefer to do that.
How do you raise your hand?
Sorry, on the if you're looking on the control panel, the GoToMeeting control panel, and the list of people who are in the attendee list. In the attendee list, it lists obviously all the people who are attending, and then there's actually a little button you can actually click on the bottom that says raise your hand. It's like a little teeny tiny hand. Just for anybody, it's right next to mute yourself, basically, and you can click on that, and your little tiny hand pops up, and I can see it, and then I can actually open up your mic. Okay, it doesn't look like there's any questions now. People may be shy. Oh, here we go. One from Debbie Gascoigne. Do Rotaract members pay annual dues, John?
Yes. No, I don't. I can speak to the Memorial Group, and maybe if I'm right about Caitlin being at Dell, I think they pay like $5 a semester. So it's not prohibitive for sure.
Mark, can we have Caitlin? Can we see if Caitlin has anything to say?
I'm going to unmute Caitlin. Caitlin actually has herself muted.
Okay.
Caitlin, your mic is free. If you wish to unmute yourself, there we go.
Hi. Can you guys hear me?
Do you have any fees, Caitlin, for your club?
Yeah, we pay, it's $10 a year, so it's the same as Memorial.
And do you have all the committees that John mentioned?
We do. Sometimes people are spread out over different committees, but yeah, we do have the same committees.
Thanks for that.
Okay, folks, I'm just going to move on now. Caitlin, thank you very much. I'm going to put you back on mute again. And John, I'm also going to end up muting you, but thank you very much for your presentation. I'm going to pass over now to Greg, who's got himself muted. And I'm just going to ask him to quickly introduce Elva.
Good evening again. Elva Hagee is from the Kempfel Club, and she is chair of the foundation committee in our district, and she has done a tremendous amount of work along with her committee to prepare ourselves for future vision, and I think I'm going to let her explain it all. Elva, it's all yours.
Thank you, Greg. Am I live?
You are.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for spending a little time with us this evening to participating in a bit of Rotary education. My objective tonight is to try to demystify the Rotary Foundation for you a little bit. I know that some of you are very familiar with the foundation, but there are probably others who perhaps are not so much. So what I'm hoping that at the end of this presentation you will know a few things. First, what the Rotary Foundation is. Secondly, how it's funded. Thirdly, what programs it supports. Fourthly, what is future vision? I'm sure many of you have heard that term tossed around over the last couple of years. What is it and how does it sort of fit into the picture? Fifthly, why should you care anyway? And finally, if you should care, what are the deadlines that you should be concerned about? So if I could go to the first slide, thank you very much. I will try to answer the first question. First of all, the Rotary Foundation is essentially the heart of Rotary. The foundation is the vehicle or the device that allows Rotary to carry out all of the good works that it does in the world. Essentially, that's where the money is, and that's how it's able to carry out its work. So it's an endowment, just a little under $750 million. It consists of short-term investments and long-term investments. Of the total assets, about 60% are short-term, and they represent two groups. One are the funds that are used to eradicate polio. I think you're all very familiar with that program. And the second category of short-term investments are used to fund other projects that we're familiar with in connection with Rotary, water and sanitation projects, other diseases, control of other diseases, maternal and child health, economic development, things of that nature. And that second group are called, second set of investments are called the annual programs. And the reason why we should even care about perhaps the Rotary Foundation is that from that annual program component, part of those donations come back to us at our district level to do projects that we choose. And I'll get into that later, but I'll just say that in passing. So in short-term investments, a half to the eradication of polio, and the other half that will generate funds that we can use on projects of our own desire. The remainder of the endowment is long-term investments, and again, two components. There's a component of that long-term investment that's used to fund scholarships. Peace and conflict resolution is the focused area, and the income from that component of the endowment that's focused on scholarships funds, I think, about 50 major scholarships each year, and I'll speak about those later. And the remainder of the permanent fund then finances other projects of Rotary's selection. So it's an endowment, about 60% short-term funds that come in and go out, and 40% long-term investments. Now, the Rotary Foundation is, I indicated, I would tell you how it's funded. It's funded by donations from Rotarians like you and I, from Rotary clubs, and from other individuals, other non-Rotarians. Rotary's motto is doing good in the world. And so it supports programs that present itself as doing good in the world. And those programs are educational programs and humanitarian programs. And I'll go into those in a little bit more detail later. But before I do, I want to just return to this concept of future vision and where does it fit into the whole picture. The Rotary Foundation was founded in 1917. The donation of $26 that was used in a community project, which I think was an outhouse in Chicago. And since that time, donations have been made on an increasingly rapid basis to the foundation, and these have been used to fund international and local projects. In 2017, which is not very far away, the Rotary Foundation will be celebrating its 100th anniversary. And about 7 or 8 years ago, the trustees of the Rotary Foundation decided to take a look at the work that they've been doing over the last 90 plus years and to see whether or not it met their expectations. When they took this closer look, they found that not everything did. And I give an example that's often used as a water project. Perhaps well-meaning Rotarians worked with the Rotary Club in a small community to bore a well, put in a pump to provide water to the village. But at the time they didn't really think about what would happen perhaps in a couple of years when that pump broke down and there were no parts to repair that pump. So the audit that the Rotary Foundation carried out of its projects, it developed a series of recommendations, and one of the major recommendations was sustainability, is to develop and carry out projects that were able to continue on for a long period of time. So like 3 years ago, the foundation decided to pilot the recommendations that came out of the report, and they carried out 100 districts in the Rotary world became involved in piloting a new program for grants, a new set of rules that would focus on larger grants that would have greater impact and all of that kind of thing. That 3-year test period or pilot period is coming to an end on the 30th of June this year. So on July the 1st, everything that this pilot group have been doing in the last 3 years will become part of what the rest of the Rotary world will be doing. So on July the 1st, Future Vision becomes the Rotary Foundation, and we will be moving forward under those rules. So what I'm going to say in the rest of the presentation describes how we will be operating as of July 1 of this year. Okay, if I could have maybe we could skip over the next slide and go to the 4th slide. So I'll again return to the Rotary Foundation. And the Rotary Foundation, its programs that it supports are educational and humanitarian in nature. And under the educational programs, it offers a series of scholarships and vocational training teams. Now, those of you who have been around Rotary for a while know that we usually have a group study exchange team that comes by each year. And this is a group of Rotarian leader and young people, and it's focused on vocational education for the young people, also cultural, and it could be a bit tourist as well. The group study exchange program is gone and will be replaced by the vocational training teams. These are similar to group study exchange teams, but they're very focused on a particular vocational area. For instance, medical teams, or maybe a group of engineers, or that type of thing, being sent off to a particular location to carry out a significant or a particular piece of training. So educational, scholarships, and vocational training teams. Could I move to the next slide? There are 3 scholarships that will be available under from the Rotary Foundation. This year there will be a $5,000 post-secondary scholarship for post-secondary study. That scholarship is open to any grade 12 student in the district. Some of the key criteria are at minimum 75% average, financial need, and community service. And the details of that scholarship can be found on the district website. Secondly, just in passing, there's a much larger scholarship, the $30,000 scholarship for postgraduate study. It's for study in a foreign country, and it's focus study. And a little bit later on I'll mention the areas of focus, but on things like peace and conflict resolution, water and sanitation, maternal and child health, economic development, and there are a couple of more. But there's quite a range, but they're focused study. And so if a student from this district were to be successful, it would be successful for study in maybe South Africa or some foreign country. And there's a fair bit of detail associated with that, but that information is available on the website. The third category of scholarship are the Peace Scholarship, and I mentioned earlier on that there was the fund within the foundation, the income of which supported these $60,000 scholarships for 2 years of study at very particular centers. Peace and conflict resolution is the topic, and this is a worldwide competition for these scholarships. We move to the next slide. So that was the educational component, scholarships and focused vocational training teams. On the humanitarian side, Polio Plus, most of you know about, and the other two that we will be concerned with are district grants, global grants. Packaged grants or grants are very similar to global grants, except they're totally funded by the Rotary Foundation. The Rotary Foundation puts the package, designs the project, puts the partners and everything together. So we won't say very much about that, but mainly about district and global grants. And if we could go on to the next. Again, Polio Plus is a program, it's a flagship program of the Rotary Foundation. Most of you are very familiar with that. Maybe Caitlin, I'm not sure, not so much. This was in 1985, the Rotary Foundation decided it would rid the world of polio, and it had hoped to do it in 20 years. It hasn't quite made it. There's still 3 countries in which there's live polio virus: Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Nigeria. But we're getting close to having conquered that battle. But it's the program for which Rotary is very well known, and very recently the Bloomberg Foundation has donated $100 million to the effort, so hopefully that will move that along. Okay, next slide. The other, I mentioned the other components of the humanitarian grant program: district grants and global grants. And we'll talk about those more. The district grants essentially are for small local projects, mostly local projects, can be international, and the global grants, large international projects. And I will talk more about that later, but I just want to stop for a minute here at this particular slide. And this represents the flow of donations to the Rotary Foundation. I mentioned when I was describing the foundation, there was that one component called annual programs, funds that flowed into the Rotary Foundation and then were dispersed out for humanitarian projects.
Elva, I'm going to hold you for a second. Elva, yep. Tom Rath has raised his hand. Tom, can you hear me? Second now. Tom has a question. I'm just making sure his audio is okay. Tom?
Hello,
Tom. Yeah, no, I'm not hearing you, Tom. If you could type your question into the chat box, we'll be able to see what the question is. We can't. I sent you an audio pin. I can't. Oh, there you go. Oh, Tom's leaving now. Yes, Tom had sent us a message earlier. Okay, thanks, Tom. Sorry about that. You have a good evening, and see you now. I'm gonna put down his hand. Thank you, Elva. I'm gonna go back to your presentation now, and I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay. Okay, if we can return just to the concept of annual programs. These are funds that flow into the Rotary Foundation. They actually sit in and are invested for a 3-year period, and the funds then are dispersed out to the field for water projects, whatever they may be. But from those annual programs, 50% of the donations that are made actually return to us at the district level to be used for projects of our design, or rather than having the Rotary Foundation make all the decisions. We can choose partners and projects and all of that kind of thing. So of the 50% that we get, now the $310,000 would represent the donations that a particular district made in 1 year. Our district, that number would be about 100,000. So half of that comes to us, and then it's split again in 50% into district grants and the other 50 into global. So this year we had about $100,000 were donated 3 years ago, and starting July the 1st we will have just over 25,000 to be used for these district grants, which are local small grants for small projects, and then another 50,000 to be used in global grants. So I just wanted to point out that split. Perhaps we could just move on then. Now we'll come back to district grants. These, of which we have a pot of about 25,000 for the upcoming year. And these are to support small projects, which are mostly local, although some of them can be international. These grants are $15,000 each. There will be 11. $1,500 each. And there'll be 11 of those. There's a simple application process. The most important thing is that the deadline for those applications is the 1st of April. Again, on the district website, you'll go into the Foundation tab, and you will see the guidelines for the grants, the application forms, and the final report forms. These projects have to be completed in a year. Okay, can we move on to the next one? The other type of grant that's available is a grant for international projects. These are larger projects, minimum $30,000. There has to be we have to work with an international district or another district or another club in another country, and the funds that we donate are matched by the Rotary Foundation. These projects are somewhat more complicated to design and get underway. Often, if we start from scratch, it could take 6 or 8 months to design one of these projects. So what we've decided to do to kind of get underway in this first year is to find a partner, put together a couple of projects, and have them open for anybody in the district who would like to participate as a partner. The first one that's mentioned here is a project that we hope to do with the Rotary Club in Nepal, and with a group in Australia who actually are currently in Nepal, just checking out the details of this project. It's a water and sanitation project, probably for a total of $100,000. We are looking maybe to put in about $35,000 when all the matching is done. So that's out there. If you have any interest, please let me know. And there's a second project in Guatemala. It's called the Soya Cow. It's a mechanical cow. It's for grinding soya beans to provide soya milk for 2 schools in an indigenous community in Guatemala, and also to provide the byproduct mash to use in making bread and products of that type. Can I have the next slide? One of the things about these global grants is that they're very focused. So any project that's funded under a global grant would have to cover one of those 6 areas, and if it can cover off a couple of areas, that's even better. Peace and conflict, prevention and resolution, disease, prevention and treatment, water and sanitation, maternal and child health, basic education and literacy, and economic and community development. It's covers quite a range, so it's not so difficult to find a project that would fit in one of those areas. But as I mentioned, with global projects, with the global projects, like any larger projects, it takes a significant amount of planning. We have to know that the Rotary Club on the ground in the third world country that we're dealing with has the capability to manage a $30,000 project, that there's training capacity on the ground, that type of thing. So for any club that's interested in getting involved or leading one of these projects on their own, we have to do additional detailed training. You just have to let us know that you're interested, and we will come and give you a training program in that. We also have to convince the Rotary Foundation that you have good financial management in your club, and we have to sign an MOU that we keep and probably send off a copy to the Rotary Foundation. So for the global projects, we've got a couple that we're going to start off with this year, where you don't have to do much other than, if you're interested, write a check. But if you're interested in getting into the nuts and bolts of leading a project, then there's quite a bit more training involved. And you can contact us and we will take you through that process. Next. This is just a couple of pictures. It refers to a matching grant project, in fact, that's underway at the moment. And on the left you can see a pretty barren type of terrain, and on the right how it looks after building a community garden. So certainly there are changes that can be made to improve the lives of people through support from the Rotary Foundation, but it does have to be carefully planned. Can I have the next slide? One of the last things I want to say is refer to the beginning when I said that the Rotary Foundation is funded by donations from Rotarians like you and I, as well as clubs and some outside donors. But what the Rotary Club would really like, the Rotary Foundation would really like to discuss to, is for each Rotarian to contribute $100 a year. It's EREY, every Rotarian every year. Now that does not happen, obviously, but that is kind of a goal. The other way in which into the Rotary Foundation is certainly through the purchase of Paul Harris awards, and the Paul Harris Award or Paul Harris recognition is essentially, it's a recognition for a contribution of $1,000 by an individual or Rotary Club or whatever, but it's basically a recognition for a donation of $1,000 having been made. And of course, the foundation points are accumulated for every dollar donated. The next slide, please. There are plenty of resources with regard to the Rotary Foundation. We have the Rotary District website, and under the Foundation tab, as I mentioned, you can find application forms for district grants, guidelines, final reports, and under global grants, the same thing, guidelines, also description of the scholarship funded under global grants, and then on the home page on the Rotary website you will see a reference to the district scholarship. You will see just Stella's brought the home page up here, and you will see there Service Above Self District Scholarship. Click for details. And I forgot to check on the deadline on that, but probably by May, I'm guessing.
I don't know if it needs sorry.
Can you bring it up there?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that document describes the details around the district scholarship. This is the scholarship for a grade 12 student, Service Above Self, for study at a secondary institution, community college or university. Deadline 15th of May. And if you scroll down a little further, Stella, you'll lost it.
No, it must be here. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, my apologies. I should have.
The other thing, if there's a minute, and that might be to take a look at how to donate if one was so inclined to the Rotary Foundation.
That's on Rotary.org.
Right, I have it on my screen. If you
okay, we can hand it over, or Mark can.
Right.
Thank you. There you go.
Good. Okay, if you go into Rotary International, I'm not sure whether you come up with Rotary Foundation. I think on the home page there was a little block that said donate, and I think I hit that particular block.
Elva,
anyway,
this is Mark. You are noted as the presenter, but you need to show your screen so we can see what you're doing.
Okay, how do I do that?
In the top, in the GoToMeeting control panel, there should be there should be a button that says Show My Screen. Bingo.
Okay, can you see it now?
Yep. Okay, I'm going back on mute
again.
We can see it.
Okay. So once you go into the Rotary Foundation website, and on the home page there is a block, I think, on the lower right-hand side that says Foundation Donations or something of that nature. And if you depress that, you'll get this screen. Then you go to Member Access. Now, if you do not have if you're not set up for Member Access, the screen will tell you how to do it, but I'll just put in my password and see that will take us in. Oh, it hasn't. It's taken me out, actually. Or no, it hasn't. Okay, you'll see up in the upper right-hand corner it says Make a Contribution and Donate Online. And here you will see that there are 5 steps involved in making an online donation. You first select the fund where you want to send your donation. Then you select the nature of the donation. It will ask you how you want to pay for it. It will summarize it, and then the payment will be made. What I want to point out here in the fund, there was this annual fund, the annual program fund, Polio Plus, the permanent fund, and then the Rotary Peace Centers. This is the permanent scholarship fund. So the two that we are most familiar with are generally support annual programs and Polio Plus. If you want to support a fund that brings 50% of the donation back to the district for us to use, the annual fund would be the one that you would choose. Now, once you've chosen that, life still isn't simple. But if what you're looking for is to make a donation to that fund that brings 50% of those funds back for district use, then you select the annual fund share. It says supports grants, activities chosen by the clubs in your district. So that would be the one that we would normally choose. There's a whole variety of others, but that's the one that I would recommend you choose. So I've chosen that, and now I continue. Take a minute here to... And then under in the donation category, it'll ask you which country, your country of origin, and your currency. The amount that you want to donate, so they've just indicated a few options. And an important item, okay, an important item is whether you want this to be one-time donation or monthly, quarterly, or annually. Then you can just continue, and as you go through, it'll just ask you whether or not you want to pay it by Visa or MasterCard or whatever, and then it will give a summary of what you've chosen, and you go ahead and pay. So that's how you donate online, and that's really all I have to say. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'll hand it back to Mark.
Thank you, Elva. If anybody has any questions, Elva is one of our the grants guru, I suspect. Although we have some new grants gurus in training. If you have any questions on the presentation this evening, I encourage you to either raise your hand or write something in the chat. If we don't get any questions, basically I'm going to launch a little poll. I'm going to take back the presenter to me. Yes. Okay. Okay. I'm going to launch a little poll now. Let's see now. Can you guys see the poll come up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're getting close to our time, so before I hand over to Greg to give thanks for this evening, I'll just wait till everybody finishes up voting. And I think we're pretty close. We're going to be closing voting now in 3, 2, 1, close. Okay, folks. So it looks like 63% indicates the club has met their Rotary Foundation giving. That's excellent. I'm glad to see there's 13% don't know, because oftentimes people don't know, and that's why these training sessions are so good. Folks, before we clue up and I hand over to Greg, just want to remind everybody that there's going to be an evaluation that's going to queue up as soon as we leave our meeting tonight, and please complete your evaluation, as it helps us make these presentations more effective for you. We have one question. I'm going to recognize Bob, and I'm going to unmute him. Bob, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Caitlin for participating tonight. We support the Rotary Club at Dell, and to let you all know that I'm participating in this from Sarasota, where it's been 75 degrees today, and I'll make you all jealous that way.
I think I'm going to mute you for that reason, Bob.
That's not fair, Bob.
Thank you, Alva.
Okay, folks. Bob, I'm going to mute you now. I'm going to hand off now to Greg to give thanks for the evening.
Thanks, Mark. Mark, if after we're all done this, can they go online and get the presentations if through the year if something comes up and they want to go back and see Alva's presentation or whatever, can they do that after it's all over with?
Yeah, I'll be. It takes me about an hour or so to get the video recording or the recording converted into a format that I can upload it on YouTube. Once it's up on the district YouTube site, I usually put that up on Thursday, and that way it doesn't encourage anybody to skip Thursday's meeting. But if you want to actually get the presentations, the links to the presentation should have come out with the emails when you registered. When you registered for this particular meeting, you would have had the opportunity then to download either one of those presentations. And if you want to do that before we conclude, you can actually click on the file that's in your materials showing in your go-to training. So there's a couple of ways to get them. And if all else fails, you can send me an email, and I can send out the presentations to you as well. So there's several ways to get the stuff.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you to Alva and John, who I know has left. And thank you to all for participating tonight. Now we're off for a month. I think it's the 9th of April or something like that. The second week in April, we'll have our last session, which is public administration. And like Mark said, if any of this information you want to go over again, it will be on the district website and under training and on YouTube. And so once again, I thank you very much and wish you all a good night.
Okay, folks, everybody have a good night, and don't forget to complete your evaluation. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.